Hi everyone, and welcome to our Explore Education Studies at Derby webinar. The webinar today will be led by Ruth and Jade from our Education Studies teaching team. If you have any questions about the presentation, please put them in the Q&A box and we'll run through these at the end. So I'll pass you on to Ruth and Jade to say hello.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruth Mieschbuehler. I teach on the Education Studies degree. One of the modules I teach is history, but I teach on others as well. And I'm the program leader as well, so I'm looking after the organizational side as well. And then there's Jade.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jade Palmer. I'm the assistant program leader on the Education Studies degree, and I teach on the philosophy strand and a couple of other modules as well. Okay, well, when we have open days, I often say to students, it's really important when you're going around universities, not just to kind of get a feel for the place, but to see what modules are on offer. Because unlike in maybe A-levels or BTECs or different kind of courses which follow a particular kind of pattern, education studies degrees can be quite different in their design. And we've designed ours in a really kind of, well, we love it. It's a really great way of looking at education through lots of different lenses. So education studies at Derby has been designed to look at education through sociological lens, a psychological lens, philosophical lens, historical lens. And then, of course, we've got our research skills that are part of it. Education's political, so we've got a policy and practice side, and we've got the international education side. Now, some of these disciplines might be familiar to you. Some of you may have studied sociology before, or psychology, or history, and that's great. And if you haven't, that's also completely fine, because what we do in education studies is we look at the sociology of education. We kind of look at different groups in particular. So sociology is about groups, and we look at which groups in particular maybe succeed and which ones perhaps don't. We look at the idea of social exclusion. In the second year, there's a time where you can look at different ways that we use language, and it's all tied into education. The second lens that we use is psychology lens, and we apply that to education as well. So we look at things such as motivation. Why do some students, why are they perhaps more motivated than others? We look at some of the key theorists to do with psychology. And in the third year, we look at neuropsychology, and we apply it to teaching and learning and how you can bring that into the classroom and create a kind of learning resource. Our philosophy strand, which is the one that I know really well, because that's the one that I deliver on, is where we ask lots of big questions about education. So who is it for? What is its purpose? And we look at some key educational philosophers. You may have heard of some. You may have heard of Plato or Socrates or Confucius. You may have heard of Foucault, or you may not. And that's okay, because what we do is we look at what have they got to say about education, and how might it apply now? Should education be about individual, advancement at the sake of all others, or should it be more of a public good? We talk about some big key ideas. Now, Ruth is the leader of the history strand, so I'm just going to pass over to Ruth to tell us a little bit about history and why that's important for education.
Yeah, thank you, Jade. Yeah, history is really an exciting module, because we might think it's everything about the past and how is it relevant today, but it is actually, because it shapes who we are. So in history, we start off by looking at events that happen in the past. So you might think about when compulsory education was introduced, or we might look at things like when the national curriculum was introduced, which is a factual approach. But we also look at questions like, do we need actually a national curriculum? So very current and up-to-date debates there. And in the second year, we build on that. We look at ideas, the history of ideas. Some of these ideas and approaches to education, like classical education that has survived for 2,500 years, they're still around. So what is it about these ideas that they survive for so long and we still use them? Some with enthusiasm and some are very critical of it, but we do still use these ideas. So what is it that they survived so long? So that's what history is about. And I can maybe, if Jade is all right with that, talk about the international strand as well. We have a module called Comparative Education. It does what it says. It looks at different education system in different countries. So we might look at Finland, we might look at an African country, or in America, or Iceland, and compare these education systems to Britain. This is really interesting because one of the specific, distinct feature of British education is the private education sector, for example, which you don't find so much in Europe. And you can say, well, why is that? What makes it that we have this private education sector? Or we might look at Finland. Finland has a really good record, at least in the past, of getting really good results in education. So how does it vary from what we do in Britain? So it's a really deep approach and an exciting kind of international approach, which brings us then into the research skills as well. Jade, do you want to talk about the research, or shall I?
Yeah, of course, Ruth. And so with the research, it's when you come to university, one of the kind of exciting things that you get to do is start to research. It begins in our first year module in psychology. You'll start to learn about ethics, and you'll be creating I think I might even go as far as say experiment. I'm not part of the psychology module, but I'm pretty sure that the students get to create something about what they do perhaps in a classroom, or how they're going to measure certain things. So we begin in the first year trying to get you to be a bit more familiar with things that might be new. In the second year, it's a really important module called research skills, research methods, I think it may be actually. And that's when we look at all the different types of research that you're perhaps able to do. And you start thinking about the third year, which is when you actually get the opportunity, if you'd like, to go and conduct some research. So some of our students, by the time they get to the third year, have got a real interest in something. Maybe it's SEND, maybe it's to do with something to do with psychology or history or sociology, whatever it might be. And then they get the opportunity to think of a research question. They get given an independent supervisor who works closely with them to make sure that they're, following the ethics procedure, that everything's going okay, that they know what they're doing. And then you can actually go out and start conducting your own research. You've got to follow a process, our ethics committee and things like that. However, because of education studies, we design the course knowing that there's lots of people with lots of different ways that they like to show what they know. And we also have the option of a big research project. So if you don't want to conduct primary research, we've had people in the past design wellbeing courses that they've then gone out into schools and kind of later on showcase. We've had people, I had a textile student once design a whole school uniform, an alternative school uniform, because where she worked, the uniform was always like a bone of contention. So there's loads of opportunities as well to be creative, but it's also that stage where if you are wanting to go into teaching or in some kind of educational environment, then you can really make your research around that. So by the end of it, you become, a real authority in your field. You know a lot about that kind of practice. Which I suppose takes us on to our other element, which is policy and practice. So with policy and practice, in education studies, we kind of look at the idea that education is political. There's lots of policy that goes on with it. And of course, there's the element of practice, which is getting out there and going to different places. So in our first year, we've got a module called Community Project. And we created that to show students that, yes, you can go into teaching. That's great. And lots of people do want to go into primary school teaching or other types of teaching. But also, we created it to show that education happens everywhere. So education happens out in our community. So we have people that are coming in that have worked with different women's groups or different men's groups. We've got people that come in that have done alternative education or pupil referral units. We've got somebody coming in this year for the first time who actually it's prison education. Somebody's working with refugees when they first come into into Derby, because it's all around our local area. So the first year community project, the students usually really get a lot from it, because it's about one of the joys of education studies is you can go on to do your teacher training. We can go on to do different parts of education if you fancy that instead. So that's our first year. In the second year, in practice, you get to do a placement. So again, we kind of work with you to find out a placement, and lots of people go into schools. It's really want to kind of get their practice, and so they go into schools, but not always. We've had people going in all kinds of different places because, again, on education studies, we look at education in its broadest sense. So it doesn't have to be schools; it can be. But it can also be other places where education is happening. And we've had people going into businesses, people going into maybe the museums or the creative industries and going into their education departments there. So it really kind of opens it up. And then in your final year, as I say, it might be something that you want to research in more depth. So that's kind of an overview of our core offer. As I say, you might be familiar with some of the discipline titles, but it's a really exciting way to look at education and to see it as a construct. As Ruth mentioned, when you compare it to other countries, we can see there's differences. It's constructed by people, so therefore we have a lot of fun deconstructing it and looking at it and asking questions about it. Depending on numbers, we have 2 pathway options. Ruth, would you like to say a little bit about those briefly?
Yeah, can do, absolutely. And just to reinforce what you were saying about how education study degree leads to teaching, we might not be that much focused on how you teach, unlike a teacher training course, for example. But a lot of the content is actually directly related to teaching, if that's the career you would like to pursue. So when we talk, for example, in psychology about motivation and achievement, that's absolutely related to the classroom. Behavior management might come in as well. And as Jade was saying, we have the 2 pathway, which are on offers. It depends a little bit on numbers. The first one is SEND. So basically what happens is with the degree is that you follow the Ed Studies degree in the first year, and in the second year you start to specialize. So in the second year, you might be taking a module or a couple of modules on SEND, which is special educational needs, if you have an interest there. Or it could be modules on TESOL, which is teaching English as a second language. So you'll be starting that in the second year and then following that up with further modules in the third year. So what is a real advantage, I think, with our program is this flexibility. Because in a way, you're starting off with Ed Studies, but you have the option to do 3 different degree courses or kind of pathways you want to follow, which is either Ed Studies, which is a degree in itself. You could do Ed Studies with SEND, so you have that specialism at the end, and you could do your placements in that as well. Or it's Ed Studies with a TESOL focus if you would like to go into teaching English as a second language. All of these, or both of these pathways would include a placement. So you could in the second year focus your placement around that as well. And then with TESOL, you have a placement in the third year. So yeah, the flexibility of the degree is a fantastic advantage, I think. And it helps you if you're thinking of pursuing a career in teaching later on. And I'll hand back to Jade.
Thank you, Ruth. So if you've got any questions about the modules or the course overview, then please put them in the chat. We're happy to discuss them. As I say, we really love it. The students really enjoy it. Each single strand is taught by a specialist, so you're really getting the best of the teaching. And if you've got any questions, please just drop them in the chat and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay, Ruth, would you like to talk a little bit about support services?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Jade. So Jade was starting off before by saying when you go to an open day, one thing you want to ask the people you meet, the lecturers you meet at the open day, is what modules does the course actually offer and involve? I think a second question you want to ask or, find out is what support services are there? And these support services, as you can see on the slide there, they're for students. They're there to help you be successful in your studies and your career later on as well. I put a few of those support services on the slide so you can see it's academic, it's around well-being, employability, so a whole range of things where we know as a university that these things, if we provide you with support and throughout the 3 years here, will help you be successful. So let's just look maybe at the academic side of it and go through some of them. On the academic side, all of our students are being allocated from day one onwards a personal academic tutor. And that is, that could be me, it could be Jade, it might be somebody else in our team. And they're there to walk with you if you like, through your degree. So they might meet with you at the beginning to talk about how you're settling in with your degree, how, would you organize studies, maybe where you can find help if you wanted help with some writing. You might have some special support you need. That could be something we could be discussing as well. So there's a whole team available. That would be the program leader, the stage leader, your lecturers, but also this personal academic tutor you can go to and will help you develop your skill and your knowledge throughout the degree. And please, if you do have any questions around it, do put it in the chat and we can pick it up later on towards the end. The second tile I have there is well-being. I think is really, really important. It's especially in education, how to succeed, we need to be well. We need to be calm in a way and have the mind space to study. So our student well-being team is there. It's there 24 hours basically. But if there are any concerns either before you start or when you have started and things pop up, they're always there to support. Students can online book a meeting. The meeting will be online, or they could be in person as well. That could be anything around, you might have concerns with accommodation. You might have concerns about an incident that happened outside university. It might be something inside the university. It might have to do with your mental health. It could be any aspect really. And it's a fantastic team. I can't praise them enough really. They're really fantastic. And we work very closely with them as well. So if, for example, I'm supporting you as a personal academic tutor and you're saying you have certain issues, then we will put you in touch with the student well-being team because they're trained counselors to help with that as well. Then we have the employability team. Our careers team is absolutely fantastic because one of the things we really want for you to get out of this degree is to follow your dream career or the career options you prefer. But sometimes, it's people start on our degree, they say, yep, I want to become a teacher, that's what I want to do, and that's what I will pursue. But what we also try to do is to introduce you to different careers options, and we talk about what they might be later on. The important thing really is, and that's what we do from day one onwards, when you start studying with us, is to think about what else is there out there. Teaching is a great job, it touches people's lives. You have the opportunity to change people's lives. I think that's what I love about education and education studies. But there are different ways of touching or changing people's lives. It could be through being a teacher, whether it's primary, secondary, or for adults maybe as well. But there are lots of charities you could be working with as well. You might be in the educational department in a museum. Businesses have HR and staff training sections as well. There are lots of opportunities, and we introduce you to this very early on. That means you have got 3 years to think about what there is out there, to exploit what you really like to do and explore these options. Now, I'm not going to go through all of those slides. You can see the work experience there, student center, student finance, accommodation, really important, and a library. Now, I love our support services. They have each a dedicated teams that will support you. And we, as personal academic tutors, will guide you towards, where to go and where to find that help. So it's an absolutely fantastic service. Jade, I don't know if you wanted to add anything in particular there, or you think I covered it more or less.
Pretty much. I just want to just mention briefly the library, because the library is fantastic. We work really closely, as Ruth said, with the we've got specialist careers advisors, but also we have our own specialist librarians who work with us, work with the team, who will help you with your library searches when you're wanting to try and find some academic texts or books, or how to start. But what else is on offer are online workshops. So as Ruth mentioned about your academic writing, there's access to those, there's access to guides, and the library staff really go above and beyond to try and make sure they can support you in all different ways. And it's so accessible. You can literally click on the library, have a look for something that you might want to, perhaps brush up some skills, or maybe you've had some feedback that you need to be a little bit more critical, or whatever it might be, and you can book onto the workshops. So I just think it's a beautiful space. I mean, I really love the library. It's a really nice space. It's a really, really open. It's got loads of like seating areas and places that can be quiet. But it's also got a really great online presence as well. I fear that some students may not even go to the library at times, so they just do it all online because it's very accessible. But Ruth, I just thought I'd mention the wonderful library services that we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the library, I spend quite a bit of time there as well when I sort of supposed to be in the office, but actually enjoying being in the library instead. And Jade, they've got a coffee machine now. So that's really exciting as well. Sometimes we need a break, we need a coffee, and, just having it there is really, really nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Good. So I think we go on to the next slide. Because when we're talking about support, I think what we sometimes forget to mention is our team, actually. And our education studies team is I can't praise it enough, fantastic team. Small, as you can see there, we're actually quite a few people, but that's our team. The people you see on the slide, that's our team. Kim Moyer, who is in the middle there, the picture, she is looking after the TESOL pathway. And Donna Lynn is a specialist in SEND, so we have these kind of specialists, and then the other teachers are teaching on different modules. These are the people who will be your personal academic tutors, one of that person. It is probably one of that person will definitely teach you. It will be me, it will be Jade, it might be Michelle or Hannah, whoever it is. So yeah, when we're talking about support, we have the dedicated teams, as I said, with academic support, the library, but we also have the Ed Studies team, and they're there to help you. They're there to make you succeed, and that's what we do, I think. We work very closely together, so you will know all of us. We all share an office together as well, and we have an open door policy. So whenever you feel like, I have a quick question I want to ask, you can always come and knock on our door. You will know exactly where we live, where we have our offices, and the door is always open. So, fantastic team, and there to support you. And you will enjoy studying with us because, you learn from us, but we will learn from you as well. So, by us knowing you the students, and you will be knowing us, the team, what we try to do is create this community of learning. It's not just you guys learning about education, but there is a huge amount we actually learn from you as well when you share your experiences or your thoughts in class. So that's really important. Jade, did you want to add something about the team, or should we go to...
I think, Ruth, exactly what you've said about us being a team. We are a team. And I think one of our strengths is the fact that we have different opinions on different things. So lots of things in education are up for debate. And one of the joys is that we don't always agree. So we can really kind of really thoughtful, critical debates and discussions with each other. And of course, we're still friends. And that's the whole point about university. So we can, disagree on some big issues, and that's okay. And I know that the students really enjoy the fact that depending on who, which lecturer they've got, they might get difference of opinions. And I think that's a real strength to our team. The diversity of it, I think, is really worth noting. Thanks, Ruth.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's true. And it makes our job really exciting as well, I think. Good. Employment. So, third question if you do go to an open day, it's the modules, as we said, it's the support services, but it's also about employment and the work experience you can gain while you are on our program. Now, I believe some of you might be interested in becoming teachers, and I just wanted to underscore or reiterate what Jade was saying before. In the second year, all our students do a placement. It will be your choice what kind of placement you would like to do. That might be in a school, but it might be also with a charity, or it might be, in any other sector you kind of find interesting to join and to experience, to see what working life might be like. I mean, at the moment we have a student who is doing a placement in prison education, and that's kind of a different sector as well. Placements, as you can see on the slides there, in the second year is 72 hours, so roughly 2 weeks. And that is spread over a semester. So you wouldn't be working 2 weeks throughout, 10 weeks. It's really sort of spread maybe a day a week or something. If the TESOL pathway runs and you were to follow that, you'd be doing an additional placement in the third year. So that's kind of different there as well. There are also, besides the placement, there are lots of volunteering opportunities at the university. Some of them might be paid, some of them might be voluntary, so you wouldn't get a payment. But what is really, really important is to get these work experiences on your CV as well. It makes your studies interesting, potentially more interesting, because you have the work experience next to it, plus your studies, which is a bit more bookish in that sense. But you can see there at the bottom, in terms of volunteering, there are lots of volunteering opportunities that we promote as a team and at the university as well. The reason we do that is because we want you to be able to gain the job and enter the career you want to when you graduate. And the big bold figure there is 80%. So that's quite a high number. It might not look as 100%. That's never the case. But we do have a very high number of students getting into graduate employment. So when they're finished with our degree, which is really exciting. Maybe we can go to the next slide to look at some opportunities or careers people might be following. One of the options to go would be, the top one there is initial teacher training. So just to explain how it happens, when you do the Ed Studies degree, you study the degree for 3 years. So you complete that and you will be graduating with a BA Honours in Ed Studies. If you decide to go into teaching, that could be primary education, it could be secondary, or it could be adult education as well. Then you would be doing an additional year, which we call the PGC. So you can see the second point there on the slide. That's a postgraduate certificate in education. And that's basically your teacher training. So you do the Ed Studies degree, which then gives you the qualification to go on to do a PGC, a postgraduate certificate in education. Now, if you're looking at the teaching qualification, the PGC is what gives you that specific classroom experience. There are lots of placements there. So if I remember right, you start off with about 3 weeks studying at university, and then you're off into placement into school. And that's, of course, supported by the university. So you're not just going to school and would be expected to teach. You have a mentor here from the university. You would have a mentor in the school place as well. So it's an intensive course, if you like, where you're actually in the classroom teaching with somebody else who's really experienced, and they support you and teach you on how to do it. I think it's a superb approach because, teaching is something you learn by doing. It's not as, you can talk about it in many ways, but you need to be in front of a class to learn it as well. So these are kind of the options. It's going into teaching, and about a third of our students do that. But we also have other careers. Do ask and put some questions in the chat if you have any questions about the teaching pathway or the postgraduate certificate, so we can answer these later on. But just to run you through a few other careers, one of them would be the third one down there, or the fourth one on the slide, is health and social care. That might be something students want to go into. We can maybe also go to the next slide then. And maybe, Jade, do you want to sort of talk about a few of the sectors, and then I can come in again?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I realized when I was listening to you, Ruth, as well, about people going into the classroom, I do know a lot of our students at the moment do teacher agency. So being on the education studies degree, because it's not 5 days a week, some of the teacher training courses are 5 days a week, so you're in every single day. Education studies is slightly different. So I know a lot of our students are actually signed up with teacher agencies, and they go into the school and they get some experience that way, and it's paid. So yeah, that just occurred to me, Ruth, when you were talking about what we can do afterwards. Some of our students are doing it already. Obviously, they're not qualified yet. You have to go off to do that, but it's all really great classroom experience. So some of these careers and employment opportunities might be familiar to you. We get people going into schools and colleges and early years every year. But some of them might not be, or there might not be something that you thought about straight away. So we have got a forest school practitioner at the university, and within my module, we have a forest school experience. And some people might want to go off and train to be forest school practitioners. We've had people that go off and do a librarian course. We had a student who went off and I can't remember what the course is called, but you become a postgraduate, don't you, Ruth? And in librarian. And as Ruth mentioned before, museums and art education. So if you think of any creative industry, or even any attraction. So we've got Alton Towers near us, we've got Twycross Zoo near us. Essentially, they'll all have education departments, the Space Centre. So all of these kind of areas, they want people that have got that kind of educational background, that know how to work with young people, but also do it in a way that's not in the classroom. So in that kind of informal type of education. So again, as I say, think of anywhere, and they've probably got some kind of educational department. It might be that you're interested in working with adults, as Ruth mentioned. It could be that you're working with asylum seekers or refugees. It might be that you're interested in adult education. That could be in the community, or it could be in further and higher education. We've got one of our ex-students. I work with him quite closely because he's a tutor at one of our colleges. So we get to talk to him. So he's actually delivering the education studies degree now, which is great because he's got on to teach adults and work in further education. We've got pupil referral units and all alternative provisions. So that's where people go. Young people are sent there quite often if school's not working out for them. So it's a different type of formal environment. But again, more and more of our students are looking to kind of go into that area. Ruth mentioned one of our students is doing a placement in a prison. So it's prison education. We're getting links with those faith settings. And then we've got our family projects, as I said to you, about the community side of things. So there's all kinds of different education out there, from working and supporting with families. We've got social services in brackets because some of our graduates go on to do a MA in social work. That's another option that they decide that they want to do. And we have quite a lot of people that enjoy the sports side of things, and they do sports and sport mentorship. This one here at the bottom that says graduate schemes, just by being a graduate, puts you in a position where you can apply for graduate schemes. And so it's really like a fast track for your career. So they look for graduates because graduates, just by being a graduate, you've actually shown that you can manage big tasks, that you can meet deadlines, that you can work independently, that you know how to research, that you can problem solve. All of those skills kind of come with being a student. And so there's particular schemes that you can look for, and they're just looking for graduates. So if you decide, I can't imagine it, but if you decide you don't want education, you've got graduate schemes and other options for you as well. So when we talk to people at open days, when we talk to our students on a daily basis, it really becomes apparent that the idea of choice yes, we can go into teaching, that's great, or we can go and do something else, is something that students really seem to enjoy. And as I say, we've got a great career service as well to kind of look into it with you. But yeah, have I missed anything, Ruth?
I just want to add really one other point. We haven't talked about assessments really, but when you think about the course, how does it lead to all these careers? We don't do exams. We have assessments as a whole variety of assessments. So it could be, it could be a presentation. It could be a Viva, which is a professional conversation. You might be doing a presentation, a group presentation, individual. You might be doing a poster. But the reason I'm mentioning this here when we're talking about employment and careers is because often we give the students the freedom to choose their assessment. So your assessment might be an essay. And I might give you a question that you need to answer, but I will give you the freedom to answer the question on a topic you want to answer it for. So the question might be very specific about the distinct features about something, but you might decide to do it on prison education because you have an interest there, or you might say you want to look into adult education, or youth education, children with special needs. You might want to do something like that. So my point about the assessment is we don't do exams, we do assessments throughout the year. So it's all coursework based. And often the coursework, you can sort of tailor it towards your interest. So if your interest is to become a teacher, primary school teacher, you might be doing it on behavior management, just to give one example. If your interest is to work with young people who have got into trouble with police for some reason and ended up in prison, then you could sort of tailor your assessments around that area as well. So yeah, the choice, I think, in terms of your assessments, what topic you are doing them on, will help you as well with your career choice, because you will explore these options and different opportunities as we go along with the course. So I think that's kind of the assessment, the course, the employment, careers, options, they're all very much linked throughout the course, I think. Good. And then, yes, we come nearly to the end. So I just, you want to know where we are in the presentation. I just wanted to mention international opportunities as well. Some people like to travel and use the opportunity while they study with us to explore that. So we have something called Go Places. It's the first point there on the slides, which is basically in your second year. What you can do, if that's what you would like to do, is to study 1 semester abroad. So at the moment we have 2 students who are in Austria. There are other options as well. I think there's America now and there is Holland. So basically, instead of studying with us in spring, you'll be studying in Austria in this case, at the university we work with very closely. So there are these options. There are options for educational shorter trips. So if you would like to go abroad and have that experience, but you might not be able to sort of leave Britain for 3 or 4 months, then you might be looking at a shorter kind of trip. New York was on a few years ago. I think, Jade, you went to New York. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was great. We took some students to New York. We did a lot of sightseeing and enjoyed the culture. And I do know that the students really look forward to these kind of big trips and getting out there. It's a real big part of our degree. We do the international strand and we try to have an international focus, but we really encourage you to kind of get out there. There's some things that are to do in our department, but the university is also doing just great trips. I remember one of our students went to Iceland, I think, Ruth, not that long ago, which was a university trip. So if you want it, it's there. If you fancy going and exploring and having that as part of your degree, then it's definitely an option for you. And I think it's really exciting.
Perfect. And again, if you have a question, do put them in the chat and we'll answer them afterwards. I think we come towards the last slide, yes, which is just a quick word about university. I mean, I've been working at the university now for over 10 years, more than 10 years, I think. So it's clearly a nice place. I like it here. I want to stay here. But it's also sort of recognized on many of the league tables that our universities are ranked in. I won't go through this. You can see in terms of teaching quality on the right there, we rank really well as a university. And then I think what is really important as well, on the left, you see that little building there, which says the best. The student accommodation is generally really, really good. Our students like it. You have different options. You might be, you might want an ensuite and you don't want to share a bathroom. That's fine. These options are here. And you can use the university accommodation. There are buses which will take you from the accommodation to the university. If you are willing to walk, they're all within I think 20 minutes maximum kind of walking distance as well. So if you don't want to wait for the bus and you use it as an opportunity to stretch your legs before or after the lectures, then you could easily walk from your accommodation as well and come back. So yes, they have won an award as well, as you can see there. So our accommodation is really, really great. I think we're gonna round it up there. I just want to say that I think it's a fantastic course, a fantastic team at the fantastic university, and hopefully you will get in touch with us either after this presentation to ask a few more questions, or even after today. If you go to our website, to the University of Derby website, and you look for our course, which is Education Studies with Optional Pathways, you will find the contact details there, so you can get in touch with us anytime, really. Just drop me an email. I'd happy to meet with you on campus if you would like to look around the campus, or maybe arrange a Teams call or a phone call. I'm always available. So just drop me an email, and me or Jade or somebody from the team will be happily meeting with you if you have any queries. Jade, did you want to ask something, or should we go over to questions?
I think you've wrapped that up perfectly, Ruth. And I share that sentiment. I've also been at the university a long time, and I really enjoy it as a place to be. I feel very lucky to, come to such a lovely campus to do our lectures. So yeah, just to say what you said, Ruth, we're very approachable. So if after this webinar, you don't want to put anything in the chat, but you do want to send us an email or a question, then we'll always get back to you. So I don't know if there's any questions in the chat.
Thanks, Ruth and Jade, for that great presentation. So we'll just run through the couple of questions we've had through. So the first one, which I think you have touched on a little bit in the presentation, is if I want to become a teacher, how would I do this after an education studies degree?
Yeah, I might take that question just to reiterate. So you would be studying on our education studies degree. So it's a 3-year full-time course. There is a part-time option as well if you wanted to do it part-time. So you basically do half the modules in a year, and it takes you 6 years instead of 3 years. But to become a teacher, you will be studying for 3 years full-time our degree. You complete that successfully, and then you are guaranteed an interview at the University of Derby as well. Many of our students will continue to do a postgraduate certificate in education, which gives you that qualification, including the placement experience, to become a primary school teachers. At the moment, we have actually people in adult education. So we have a couple of students actually who graduated. They did the teacher training for post 14-year-olds, so for adults, and they're working in further education colleges now. So that's how it works. It's the 3 years full-time on our degree. You complete that course, and then you will do 1 more year which is your teacher training here at the University of Derby. You could potentially go to another university if you want to. There is that choice, but they are separate qualifications. But that's how it works.
Amazing, thank you, Ruth. So we've got one final question, which I think you did touch upon a little bit in your previous answer, which is, can I study the course part-time?
Yes. is the answer. Absolutely. If you wonder how that works, again, drop me an email, my contact details on the website. We can go through that. But part-time is an option. And many students who are mature students, we have a lot of young students who come directly from school, but we also have a lot of mature students who might have other commitments, family, work, children, either of that. So yes, part-time is definitely an option.
Amazing, thanks, Ruth. So that's all the questions we've had through, so I will pass back over to you both to say goodbye.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for attending the webinar. Again, email me or visit all the social media links you have there on the slides as well. And hopefully you'll be in touch and we hear from you. It would be great to meet you in person and to talk about the program a little bit more.
Thanks. And thank you for everybody for coming to the webinar. I hope you found it useful. But as Ruth said, if you've got any more questions, if you want to know anything more about the modules, how it works, how often you're in, any of those kind of things that you think, oh, crikey, I should have put that in the chat, then just drop us an email and we'll get back to you. And as Ruth said, we're really looking forward to welcoming you to the Education Studies program if that's what you decide. We're a great team. And thanks again.